Hello everybody and welcome to the Tom Colohue YouTube and Twitch channels, where today we're going to be deep diving into the impending WrestleMania pay-per-view, as the WWE have just decided that they're going to go full whack and start pushing this thing to get started. We may as well. If you don't know who I am, that's fair enough. My name is Tom Colohue. I'm a pro wrestling journalist who's worked for PW Torch, Fansided, Sportskeeda and of course independently on these channels. I'm the guy who broke the news of The Rock working with Becky Lynch, Sonya Deville's return to wrestling, and of course when she returned, and most recently the first person to report that there was a plan in place for Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, which is being reported a lot of places right now, and it's certainly driving a lot of traffic to my video on the topic from 2 weeks ago. Firstly, I want to say hello to everyone who's saying hi in the chat. Hello to Mogsy, great to see you, mate. Sean Cena says hello, Tom, as well. Ed Fries is here saying hey, everyone. Wolf Gamer says hello, hello. Matthew Ham says hello, Tom. Ed, with a little bit of pleasure in saying members unite. And that is, of course, one of the first things I need to mention. I did promise that we would have channel memberships up and running sooner rather than later. That day has come. We do now have channel memberships live and active for anyone who wishes to indulge in them. There are three options. There is a $1 option, there is a $5 option, and there is a $25 option. Perks and promises that you'll get from me as regards 5 and upwards is unique behind the scenes videos, which I'm putting together the first one as we speak. Well, not literally as we speak, but I'm putting together the first one at the moment. And probably once a month, maybe once a fortnight, a members only live stream where you can pick my brain. I can't promise anything news wise and confidential in that regard, but as it's, question and answer, fairly standard that some things will be shared there. So please, if you do want to consider a channel membership, that is a perfect way to support the channel. You can jump in just like that. If you're a Twitch user, you can of course subscribe and support the channel in that way too. They are now live and available. First person to jump in was of course our very own Ed Fries, who found out about it before we actually officially went live, but we're officially live now. In the meantime, if you don't want to support in that way, there are other ways to support. A simple like on this video will make a big difference. We are currently sitting on 1,050 subscribers and we continue to grow. Sean says, you were the first to report about the AEW contracts ending. Now another has ended, as Joey Janela said he isn't signing a new deal with AEW and is leaving the company. Thank you for reminding me of that one, Sean, and thank you for letting everyone know who may not already do so. Edward Brooks says, hello, Tom. Hello, Edward. How are you? Sonic says, hello, Tom. How are you doing today? Well, I'm doing very, very well. Thank you, Sonic. Very well. And in fact, we have a brand new channel member to the channel supporters section. Welcome, Sai, to the channel membership. The first videos to go live in the members only section will be going live next week. So in the next 5 or so days, you'll have something to actually jump into in that behind the scenes section. Thank you very much for joining the membership section. David Leary says hi. Welcome, David. Hypnosis Bro says, hey Tom, how you doing? Since the WrestleMania card is shaping up right now, is there yet being decided what's going on last at night 1? After considering everything, I much rather have Becky Bianca open. The decision at this point has not yet been made. It has not yet been made, at least not officially. That decision has not been made. So the two matches are still in a dead heat, competing with each other to see who wins the day. Jermaine says, hi Tom, how is your day going so far? It's going very, very well. I had to help with the school run earlier on because my partner's feeling a little bit under the weather. And that was also fun in its own way. One of the kids tried to avoid us all, which is standard fare, but didn't spot me until I grabbed and caught, because that's kids. But yeah, good day. Nice and relaxed, which is always the best way. Wrestler fan says, hey Tom, will Ricochet be defending his Intercontinental Championship at Mania 38? Because there isn't many people for Ricochet to face. At the moment, it doesn't look like Ricochet will be defending that title on the full WrestleMania card. If he is defending it, it will be very late in the day and it will be against someone far lower down the card. Thinking about it, it will likely be, for example, Butch, who has just debuted, as it were, or he will end up joining into a triple threat with Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville. One or the other will happen. Guinness Gamers, been a little while, mate. How you doing? Says, hi Tom, haven't been around in a while. Hope you're keeping well. I'm keeping very well, thank you, Guinness Gamers. Things are going extremely well for me, and I do appreciate seeing your name pop up. You have been here quite a long time after all. Wolf Gamer says, I'm pretty happy. Got a job offer yesterday. Great to hear it, mate. Going to be a dietary aid. Should be fun to say the least. I'm really excited for you, mate. Great to hear it. Matthew Ham says, will there be a triple threat for the Raw Tag titles at WrestleMania between Arcade Bro, Street Profits and Alpha Academy? I will get to that when we start talking about the Mania card. Simon says, hey Tom, can't wait. So excited for Team Bad Boston Glow versus Live for Brutality. The match should be a lot of fun. Sean says, WWE released a panel for the Superstore at WrestleMania. Many big names are missing like Brock, Roman, Alexa, Asuka and Kevin Owens. Brock and Roman are essentially being protected and kept separate so that no one can be too aware of them as we get closer to the actual main event match. They're being kept separated from fans as much as possible. Alexa, unlikely to be there because she doesn't have a match planned. Asuka, unlikely to be there because she doesn't have a match planned. And as regards Kevin Owens, quite similar to what's going on with Roman and Brock Lesnar. They're keeping him separate because they don't really know what people are going to be asking and chatting. Sai says, Ari, Becky and Bianca. I really think they're going to cut Bianca's hair on Raw this week. Ooh. That would be a powerful statement. Definitely a loss for Becky, but we expect that already. Moxie says, hi Tom. Hi Moxie, how you doing? Andrew Quinn says, hello Tom, sorry I'm late. Can you update us on Cody? Now Andrew, you've asked me this over the last few days, I think about 7 different times in 7 different ways. I do need people to wait for the shows sometimes. I do need people to do that every now and then. So Andrew, the update that I have is just the same as what I've already had, except for one little thing. Thank you Moxie for those 100 bits, I really do appreciate it. That's a big support of the channel, and of course runs the possibility of resulting in a hype train, so always a very good thing. Thank you very much Moxie for supporting. As regards Cody Rhodes, the WWE fully expect he will be wrestling a match against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. They've been given assurances, they've been told quite simply Cody Rhodes will be there and will be wrestling Seth Rollins. Once again, I do not know if there has been any actual official contract signing, just to be clear on that one. Nobody knows, and anyone who does know wouldn't say so because Cody would never speak to them again. Jermaine says, hey Tom, I really do have a feeling that Ricochet may be added with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods versus Sheamus, Rich Holland and Butch at WrestleMania. It's not a bad shout, would certainly be a way to get him on the card. At the moment he isn't on the card, and of course going forwards that could result in a Sheamus and Ricochet program, so all good stuff. Resident Evil AMC says, hi, how are you? I'm very well, thank you, AMC. I do appreciate you checking in. I'm doing very well, thank you. Moxie says, Tom, I like your new haircut. I did get a trim over, I think it was last week, to be honest. I did get a trim, so thank you kindly for that. I'm exposing a lot of forehead at the moment, and what I didn't realise is the amount of grey hair, or silver hair, that has been slipping through recently. Thank you very much, Ghost of Nay, for those bits. 69, which of course is nice. Well done there. And thank you very much for joining us. Sean says, sucks Alexa won't get her payday for WrestleMania. Alexa responded to a fan asking her when she'll be back, and she said it's not up to her. Because it's not up to her, it's entirely up to the booking. The WWE are not planning to use her until Mania at the earliest, and after WrestleMania from there. This is of course consistent with everything that I've been reporting about Alexa Bliss. She was not planned initially to be on the Elimination Chamber card. She was brought in last minute, so they essentially hurried everything up. There was a lot of therapy sessions left on the cutting room floor, and there is still an evolution of the character to be expected before her return. Wolfgamer says, did anyone else hear about Sanada? He's been pulled from the New Japan Cup due to injury. I don't know if they will strip him of the US title or not. It depends on the nature of the injury. Sanada is not likely to be out of action for too long. I did see a clip of when the injury occurred. A shooting star, a standing shooting star, which did not quite land as it should have done. I believe it's an orbital injury, which could be a long-term one. That is, after all, what Neville had back in his Neville days. So if he's out for a while, I expect that title to go. Go says, what did I miss? Not much, to be honest. There's not been enough to really jump on of an extra show over the last few days. But there's still a lot going on in the wrestling world. We will be talking WrestleMania just as soon as I've caught up with the chat. Austin Palmenter says, could the Seth thing be like Cena and Taker? Everyone talking about Cody, what about Seth? I don't really understand the question. Seth is very likely to be wrestling against Cody Rhodes, and they haven't given him another storyline because they are confident that is going to happen. Matthew Ham says, any updates on the Mania card? I will be going through the full card with previews and predictions very shortly. Jermaine says, hey Tom, do you think WWE will do something special for Scott Hall at WrestleMania since his passing? I think he'll definitely be mentioned at the very least, and I think Scott Hall is one of those. Everyone in wrestling has such massive respect for this man that they'll definitely be celebrating him properly. Simon says, Tom, had some great news today. Had my yearly checkup for my eye cancer. Still all clear. Very good news, mate. Very good. Happy to hear it. Justin says, Bliss rarely complains on Twitter about her gimmick, push, etc. I believe her doing that is actually her playing up the fact she's not being used and is what WWE wants. Just my opinion, though. Alexa Bliss is one of those who has massive respect for the management above her. She would not be saying things like this if she wasn't confident of of how well it's going to be received. That said, some of that confidence has undoubtedly eroded recently with the amount of her friends that have been fired. Boss says, does Seth face... is Seth still facing Seth at Mania? Well, Seth is definitely not facing Seth at Mania. I'm confident of that. Sean says, most of the card for Stand and Deliver was announced. Imperium versus Creeds versus MSK. Mandy defends against Cora. Ciampa versus Tony D'Angelo. And Braun versus Dolph for NXT title. Who do you think wins these matches? Okay, Imperium, Cora, Tony D'Angelo, and Braun Breaker. Jermaine says, I just want to say congratulations to Thunder Rosa by all means. Big congratulations to her. Britt Baker has had a hell of a championship run, really done good things for that championship, but it was time for someone new to take it. Thunder Rosa was already well placed. Austin says, could it be like Seth comes out at Mania, then boom, Cody comes out? Yes. A lot is possible. Badaboss says, any news on Cody? Latest update on Cody, WWE are very confident that the match versus Seth Rollins will be going ahead at WrestleMania. They've been given assurances that this is the case. We are now all caught up on the chat. What I will do is reiterate that if you are watching on YouTube, please remember to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We do now have Super Chat and channel membership options, so if you'd like to support the channel further, you can jump in with one or both of those. So please do consider it. It's making a big difference and getting me closer and closer to being able to do this full time. So please do consider if you can. In the meantime, let's jump into the WrestleMania card, shall we? Because I've got a WrestleMania card right here. I'm going to go through match by match. I'm going to take regular breaks to catch up with chat and see how things go. So starting with our Raw Tag Team Championship match, it is officially going to be RK Bro versus the Street Profits. There is still very much a possibility that the Alpha Academy are going to be involved here because, and I'm going to put this bluntly, Randy Orton wants the Alpha Academy to be involved here. The Street Profits have a good opportunity to stand out. RK Bro, I am confident, will be retaining the championships as a method of getting them closer to the impending breakup. Orton has a lot of sway and does not want this breakup, but the breakup is not impossible. The SmackDown Tag Team Championships will feature the Usos versus Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, while I'm confident that other members of the Bloodline will stand firm and retain their championships, the Usos, I'm not so sure. Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs have been pretty heavily pushed since Nakamura turned face about a year ago, well actually just over a year ago now. With this in mind, I feel the Usos need a little bit of treachery underneath their feet. We need to at least begin the process of making Roman look a little weaker so that he can start losing championships, and the best way to do that is to have the Usos start to look a little weaker as well. Kevin Owens will be hosting the KO show featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is not a match. My prediction is the same as pretty much anyone else's. What's going to happen is that Kevin Owens will blow smoke right up Stone Cold Steve Austin's ass. then start to blow smoke up his own ass, then get stunned, and Steve Austin will just walk away, and that'll be the segment. Sami Zayn will take on Johnny Knoxville, and I have scary amounts of confidence that Johnny Knoxville is going to beat Sami Zayn here. Sami Zayn loses a lot of matches, but I also feel that if Sami Zayn was going to win the match, he would still be the Intercontinental Champion. It seems like they were at a bit of a rush to get that championship away from Sami Zayn onto Ricochet, who doesn't have a match ready for WrestleMania, meaning that I find it very likely Johnny Knoxville will be winning the match. Welcome, Megan, over from your own streams. If anyone has not yet done so, please consider going over and following Megan Sittin. Thank you very much for the raid, Megan. That's our first bit of Mania card. Let's see what there is on the chat, just so I don't fall behind. Go says, did you happen to catch the newest episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy? And if so, do you have any thoughts on what was discussed, since it seems to be a hot topic in the wrestling world? Yes, I did, and yes, I do. Let's talk about this for a moment. Jeff Hardy openly stated, essentially, that he was happy to walk away by the time that he actually did. He had a moment of damn the consequences when he walked out during a live show, abandoning Drew McIntyre and his opponents, which I believe at the time was Sheamus and Rich Holland. No, it will have been Corbin and Madcap Moss. Abandoning all of them in order to walk away. Now, the WWE would then state either you go to rehab or you don't go anywhere. Or you don't go anywhere with us or you get fired. And he opted for the choice of, I'm out of here, screw you, go to hell. I've been talking about this one for a long time. Jeff Hardy, without Matt Hardy, was not happy in the WWE. He did not really want to be there. That's been the case for a long, long time. There were rumours that his contract was extended, and yet somehow he left at roughly the same time that he would have left anyway, even without that extension. So it's really hard to know exactly what's been going on with Jeff. What I will say is that from January and further back, I've been stating with absolute confidence that Jeff Hardy was going to be going to AEW. His debut there, not a surprise for anyone who frequents this chat, and I feel it was a logical next step for him. As regards whether I agree with him or not about walking away, I don't entirely, but I also feel that when it comes to WWE, when you look at how they're basically holding Ali hostage, I get it. Just as an aside there, brief exclusive for you, Ali may have been offered the Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania and turned it down. Simon says, do you think Sasha's match gets made a 4-way or 5-way tonight or on Raw? 4-way, possibly. 5-way, no. There aren't that many corners on the ring for a tag match. You can't have a 5-way tag match. It's too many teams. It would just be carnage or turmoil, one way or the other. From where I'm sitting, I expect a fourth team to be added. I'm still feeling Natalya and Shayna, but we'll see how it actually goes. Bailey says, how many Hall of Fame members have been announced? 3? At this point, is there any time left for another announcement? There is time, because ultimately they still need to build a large enough field for a Hall of Fame induction class, and there will be more announced. Dimitar says, hi Tom, what did I miss? Not too much. I've been going over the WrestleMania card, answering questions, and talking Cody Rhodes so far. John says, do you think this match of RK Bro versus Street Profits will turn the Street Profits heel? No, I do not. I think there are enough heel teams on Raw at the moment, particularly prominent ones, and I don't feel that RK Bro will be in the tag division much longer. Simon says, Seth was on Jimmy Fallon last night. Really great, funny, curb stomped a leprechaun on St. Paddy's Day. Now, as an Irishman myself, not entirely okay with that. Also says, plus he gave off Joker vibes, which he definitely does. That's been a thing for a while when it comes to Seth. Jermaine says, hey Tom, have to disagree with you on that one. I see Mandy Rose still walking out as champion at Stand and Deliver. Doesn't mean Cora won't win the match by DQ, but Mandy's not losing that belt. I'm glad to hear your opinion on that one, mate. You, by all means, share. I'm not sure what's going to be happening with Toxic Attraction, but I think they're more than ready to be called up and get involved on SmackDown. Moxie says, Tom, I read an article saying that Roman needs to lose at Mania to refresh his character. Whoever wrote that is someone that I disagree with. Matthew Ham says, any update on Big E? Yes, there is. So the expected time off has been reduced because they're now a lot more aware of his condition. At the moment, the WWE are expecting the earliest he could return is in the build for SummerSlam. That's basically what they've scripted out. They've decided they will not be scripting anything for him before SummerSlam. But the expectation is that he's going to recover at a very good pace. As broken necks go, it doesn't sound like this one's going to be career ending. It sounds like this one will be one from which he can make a full recovery. 4 or 5 months, possibly even 6, and we should see him back in action. WrestleScope says, don't think the Hall of Fame class will be larger since Hall of Fame ceremony is right after SmackDown. It is right after SmackDown. It's certainly not this week after SmackDown though. They still have time to make some announcements. We'll see how it plays out. They have a couple of weeks. They just need people to start saying yes instead of saying go to hell. Justin says, how many call-ups after Mania and who do you think is most likely? I think Toxic Attraction, possible. Io Shirai, likely. Bron Breakker and LA Knight, certain. That's what I feel is likely there. WrestleScope, just as an aside, I was very glad to see how your views picked up for the Raw watch party. I hope you enjoyed it, mate, and I hope you had fun. Brian Dalton says, any chance Cody debuts in Chicago? Yes, there is a slight chance. There is always a chance. That's the thing I feel that everyone needs to be aware of. There is always a chance of Cody Rhodes. Hector says, happy Friday, Tom. I see a lot of people talking about WWE and Vince are playing with us when it comes to Cody Rhodes, but I don't blame them for continuous Cody hints. Vince may be old, but he's not dumb and knows how to get people to tune in, and this is definitely doing that. Absolutely. Dave Meltzer's report before this week's Raw did WWE a world of good and did them a massive favour. I tweeted out stating, and I'll find the exact tweet because I want to make sure I get the wording of it right, but I essentially tweeted out something which did piss off quite a few wrestling journalists. Pissed off quite a few of them. Which, you know, I'm so unhappy about. So unhappy. And it is, I'll just copy the link and pop it in here so everyone can read it if they haven't already. So the tweet states, WWE doesn't need to build up to a WrestleMania match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Wrestling journalists are doing it for them. And I do stand by that, and I think it's absolutely correct. 3,000 views on that one, because, you know, it's a lot. And it's absolutely true. That's happening a lot at the moment. The WWE don't need to push too hard, because wrestling journalists are, myself as well, are making this one happen. Larry Bongo says, have you discussed Swingers Dungeon yet? Biggest thing in wrestling. I don't entirely know what that is, Larry. Would you be able to clarify? Sean says, Fightful reported that Candice LeRae's contract is up in the spring. Does she leave, or do they add the time she's been gone onto her contract to extend it? WWE tactics typically will be to add extra time on, but we'll see what actually happens there because there's no guarantee. Sonic says, this week has been a slow week for wrestling news. Let Asuka get healthy until she tells us when she gets back, and Alexa Bliss is going to get married. These live wrestling fans are fickle. Alexa Bliss does want to get back in the ring sooner rather than later, but there are no plans in place to do that yet. WrestleCom says, thanks Tom, working hard on building my channels. Keep going, mate, I believe in you. Montel says, hey Tom, how's ticket sales for WrestleMania? Good. There is no sellout in place yet, but they've still sold most of the available tickets with more planned to go ahead soon. There is a lot of travel package tickets which have not gone yet, and that accounts for quite a lot of the missing tickets at the moment, but they're expecting close to sellouts to be announced in the last day or two on both nights. WrestleFan says, will WWE have the Hall of Famers wave to the crowd 2 nights in a row at WrestleMania 38? No, it will just be on one night. I believe it is planned for night 2, so Sunday. Society says, half of WWE's advertising is guerrilla marketing these days. Can't blame them if journalists will do it for free. Absolutely, you are entirely correct. Entirely correct. So absolutely no questions there on that one. Guerrilla marketing is a really good way of explaining it as well. AEW also very good at it. I mean, we in here sat and talked about CM Punk negotiating with both WWE with no intention of signing, and also negotiating with AEW with the intention of signing. A couple of weeks later, there was a report from Fightful Select stating that CM Punk was negotiating with AEW, and boom. I don't think it's impossible that was an intentional leak. Larry says, Impact Wrestling, Johnny Swinger has a new wrestling school, Swinger's Dungeon. It's brilliant. I assumed it was something to do with Johnny Swinger. Gotta be honest, I expected as much, but didn't want to assume. Sounds fun. I'll have to look that up. WrestleScope, can you please source that report? WrestleScope is saying that WWE will not add time onto LeRae's contract, but I'm going to need you to source that, WrestleScope. When it comes to the chat that we have here, I want the most educated and well-informed chat in wrestling, and a large part of that is making sure that everyone sources where their information is coming from. Wrestler Fan says, will WWE have the... I've already read that. Sean says, I think Cora is winning now. She's one of the superstars at the WrestleMania panel on Saturday, April 2nd, and Mandy isn't listed. Certainly a possibility, though it can also work the other way. The Vanquished still have something to say after all. Brian Dalton says, do you know the length of Rhodes' deal if signed 3 or 5 years? I do not know the length of contract that Cody Rhodes is likely to sign if he signs it. Spider Boss says, I hope Cora Jade wins. Mandy's reign is feeling boring. Fair enough, Spider Boss. Thank you for giving us your opinion on that one as well. Simon says, WrestleVotes is reporting the UK pay-per-view the day after my 34th birthday on September 3rd will be at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, Wales, which holds a full capacity of 74,500 maximum. Indeed, we were talking about the September UK pay-per-view. I did not have a date. I just knew that the pay-per-view would be in September. We spoke about that last month in the Build to Elimination Chamber. As regards the Millennium Stadium, that seems the most likely place once the roof has been fixed. But the word Wembley has also been mentioned a few times. So while I'm confident of the date they've reported, I'm not 100% on the arena. Hector says, saw your tweet about the UK pay-per-view show. Do you know if it's always been the plan to have this take place during Double or Nothing, or was this a recent decision? It was a recent decision. The WWE were not planning to go head-to-head. However, there is an availability issue with the Millennium Stadium, and this is one of the reasons it's taken so long to report. The WWE did not choose it. Wolf Gamer says, Swinger's Dungeon was a weird-ass segment. Not sure who greenlit that one, but yeah, it was odd. Probably Johnny Swinger gets away with pretty much whatever he wants, let's be honest. Battleboss says, I feel the WWE booked Toxic Attraction just as sexy girls. That's definitely not true because they keep winning championships. That's all it is, really. Going back to the WrestleMania card, let's see what else we have ready to discuss. So, we have a match planned between Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. Now, gonna have to sneeze before I continue. I do apologize. And I'm good. So, the original plan for Austin Theory at WrestleMania was Shane McMahon. Pardon me. With Shane McMahon no longer available because pissed off a lot of people, including Austin Theory, the WWE reached out to Pat McAfee and said, let's get you involved. And Pat McAfee said, yes, 1,000 times yes. So we will have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. The plan is that Pat McAfee's name and overall brand will do good things for the WWE and for Theory. The storyline hasn't been particularly exciting, it's been very basic, but the segments have been a lot of fun because of the intensity in the promos between both men. These two have a natural chemistry that I'm really enjoying. I believe Austin Theory will be picking up the win here. Pat McAfee will be continuing on commentary, and Austin Theory will be away on Raw, far, far away. We have Drew McIntyre taking on Happy Corbin. Logically, Drew McIntyre must be winning here because he's the only person who can really be facing Roman next. However, I am gonna play my wild card moment here because even though I think Drew McIntyre is gonna be the more likely winner, Happy Corbin for me is someone who has championships in his future. I can see Corbin winning this, McIntyre winning the championship, and Corbin being his first challenger. So for me, particularly with Madcap Moss there to run interference, I'm going to give this one to Happy Corbin. I know. But I am. At current, the Women's Tag Team Championship match is booked as Naomi and Sasha Banks taking on Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and taking on Queen Zelina and Carmella, the current Women's Tag Team Champions. I am confident a fourth team will be added to this match, however I do not in any way believe that they will be picking up the win. I was the first person to report that Sasha Banks would be going after the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania, first person to report it would be a multi-team Tag Team Championship match, and I did report 4 teams. I still believe it will be 4 teams, even though there is naturally quite a difference between what I initially expected. All I knew is that there would be many teams, and I expected it to be Sasha Banks and Bayley, but we are where we are. One of the main things that the WWE are planning to achieve here is a win at WrestleMania for Sasha Banks, and also a rebuild of the women's tag team division. Naomi will be teaming with Sasha Banks for a while. This in many ways is a reward for Naomi for good work with Sonya Deville. Naomi and Sasha Banks should be winning the Women's Tag Team Championships. Started saying the wrong word. Edge versus AJ Styles is the sort of quote-unquote dream match for the show, and it's certainly a very exciting prospect. These two men are incredible wrestlers, and really whoever picks up the win here is definitely moving on to some pretty big things. Now, Edge has been picking up wins left, right and centre. Meanwhile, AJ Styles has sort of faded recently. He's been doing favours, he's been out of the main event picture. He's also been recently changed to a face, to a good guy. So I have a strange amount of confidence that we're going to see AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns again. And you know what? I love that as a concept. Because it's been 6 years. 6 years since we had AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. This is a good time for Edge to finally lose. And I think when it comes to WrestleMania, he should be taking a lot of losses. He's a big name, but he needs to help other people as well. I think AJ Styles has given a lot to the company over the last year. I think it's time the company gave him something back. Larry Bongo says, Wales is a good idea. They can talk about dragons. Americans will think WWE is touring Narnia. Essentially it is Narnia, let's be honest. The good old U of K is indeed Narnia. Sean says, JTG has reiterated his belief that WWE should honour Shad Gaspard with the Warrior Award. We will see if they do that, because the Warrior Award has not yet been announced. Justin Stevens says, I think Corbin takes the IC belt off Ricochet. Certainly a possibility. Ricochet is going to need opponents soon. Personally, I'd rather see Sheamus in that spot, but Corbin is ahead of Sheamus in the heel side at the moment. Batman Welcome says, I like what WWE is doing with Bianca and Becky. The build is really good. I completely agree. I think the build for Bianca versus Becky is quite a lot stronger than the build for Charlotte versus Ronda so far, and I'm excited to see where they go with it. Wolfgamer poking the bear on that one. They should win the Nope, wrong company. Yeah, that's exactly how that went. Spot on. Lots of tag championships. Ghost says, do you have any opinion on what Dave Meltzer revealed about Scott Hall's final days in the Wrestling Observer newsletter? I will refrain from stating what was discussed out of respect for Mr. Hall and his family and loved ones, but I don't mind clarifying. Ghost, thank you for bringing this in. I'm not going to ask you to clarify. In fact, I'm not going to discuss this too much, because I feel that's very personal information. I don't know if Dave Meltzer had permission to share that. If he did, by all means. But if he did not, I certainly do not feel comfortable with it. It's not information that I can verify or confirm, so I'm not going to be discussing it. Lance, welcome mate, says, is WWE really planning to rebuild the women's tag division? Would have helped for them to not cut half the women's roster. Won't hold my breath. Yes, they are, Lance. They also planned to rebuild the women's tag division this time last year, and they did an okay job. We had the Tag Team Turmoil matches, Tag Team Turmoil on night 1, and then the actual championship match on night 2. And for a while, we had genuinely good women's tag team matches. We had a genuinely good women's tag team division. However, they then released most of the women. With Toxic Attraction looking a likely call-up, the tag division is starting to look strong. Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan probably going to continue for a while, as is Sasha Banks and Naomi. That gives them at least 3 teams with that call-up, and it's a good start. Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Toxic Attraction is just a great way to introduce Toxic Attraction, because you could easily have Toxic Attraction, the tag team, and then Gigi Dolan and Mandy Rose next when Mandy says, look, I'm stepping in, we're doing this right. But then they lose as well, and Mandy Rose can't get the job done too. I think it would be good to see Mandy and Sonya Deville in close connection as well, but very, very different people to what they were. And I do feel we're going to see some more people in the tag division added when it comes to Raw and the like. I think there's a few people lower down the card, such as, for example, Aaliyah, who could really benefit from being in a tag team with someone. I just don't necessarily know who that someone would be. And Sean says, do you still believe the report that Liv and Ruby were supposed to win the tag team turmoil match? Yes and no. I never really full on knew one way or the other, and it really didn't make all that much difference. But it certainly would have been a good spot for them. That said, Natalya and Tamina won off the basis of the crowd support. So if Liv and Ruby had won, they still wouldn't have won the tag team championships. Sai says, I've subscribed to The Observer for 15 years, but Meltzer's report was genuinely upsetting. Thanks for taking the more dignified route. Whatever your opinion of Dave Meltzer, he does his best to inform. I feel on this one, it's not necessary information. It's not information that's in the public interest. It's personal, private to the family, and not something that even if I had, not something I would want to share. Dimitar says, Doudrop and Nikki seems like a team that is forming. It does. I'm excited for it. And Justin says, with Bayley, Lacey and Asuka coming back soon, call-ups likely coming after Mania, I don't see Alexa getting any push anytime soon. I'm saying this, but I believe Alexa is released after WrestleMania. I do not believe Alexa Bliss is going to be released after WrestleMania. I am confident, because I know that there is a plan in place for Alexa after WrestleMania. I don't necessarily know what that plan is going to be. I am confident, though, that Alexa versus Becky is in the build, and Becky is basically planning to lose a lot of matches in the near future. Let's wrap up this Mania card, shall we? I want to talk briefly about 2 matches that haven't been confirmed, but seem increasingly likely at this point in time. First and foremost, Finn Balor defending the United States Championship against Damian Priest. It's a good spot for Finn Balor, who is of course the new United States Champion. I feel he can do very good things with that championship, but I don't feel he's going to hold it for long. This match is simply to really show that Damian Priest is a bad guy now, because the way for him to reach that next level is for him to take on the Matt Riddles, the Randy Ortons, people higher up the card, and it does mean Priest versus Styles is definitely going to be a longer term feud in our future. The other one, of course, that we need to mention is Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. Going to be clear on this one. If the match happens, which seems increasingly likely, Cody Rhodes will be defeating Seth Rollins. Where Seth goes after that is anyone's guess. I'm hoping back into a Seth AJ program, but I feel at this point what we're likely to see is Cody Rhodes taking that win, being pushed as a face, being the one to overcome Damian Priest, the United States Champion, and then going on a long, long undefeated streak. There are 4 matches left to cover. I will jump in the chat just to catch up before doing that. But first and foremost, please be aware of the following. If you're watching on YouTube, please do click that like button. That little thumbs up can make a massive difference to the growth of this channel. And subscribe if you haven't already. Every little helps, and every little in this case is just a new subscription. We have reached 1,050 subscribers over the last few days, which is, I've got to be honest, is something that I never really expected to reach, certainly with the amount of speed that we've been able to do so in the last few months. we continue to grow, and I'm confident that we're going to be gaining quite a lot around WrestleMania time when we are basically online and live for an entire damn week. But until we get there, we will keep pushing, we will keep trying to do whatever we can, and keep trying to build however we can. So every like, every subscription does make a massive difference. And if you're watching on Twitch, you can also hit that follow button, which will mean that you get an alert every time we go live. Please do consider doing so to support us as well. You can also support with super chats on YouTube, with memberships. We have a number of different options for channel memberships, including a $1 option and a $5 option, which will get you unique additional things such as behind the scenes videos, community updates, and a specific members only live stream where you can ask questions privately, as it were. So we have that, as well as, of course, being able to make donations via Twitch as well. Sean says, I hope they don't ever release Alexa. If they do, I may stop watching. I don't see it. Not yet, anyway. Justin says, Demon versus Damien. Moxie says, Demon versus Damien. I'm calling it now. If that happens, the Demon will be losing again, just to be clear. That's why I don't think it's going to happen. Jermaine says, hey, Tom, you and I both know that Charlotte versus Ronda is going to be a submission match. Don't tell anybody. I have never said that match is going to be a submission match. Just to be clear, I have never said it. Larry says, I know people involved in wrestling. I've been assured that Alexa's next gimmick is a glorified voice-activated search engine. I knew that. This is long-term booking. Long-term booking. Moxie says, Tom, I bet you 5 gifted subs we're going to get the Demon versus Damien. All right. Cool. I mean, I'll take the 5 subs. I got no issue with that. Larry says, I'm tired of the Alexa deserves better hashtags and Alexa should go to AEW. She won't leave WWE and I don't believe AEW would know how to use her. She would essentially be booking herself in AEW, let's be honest. Matthew Ham says, will they do Dragunov versus Roderick Strong at Stand and Deliver? I'm not sure. I don't follow NXT enough to be able to say one way or the other. Hector says, Fightful reported there's been talks with Jonathan Gresham and Tony Khan. Could be in negotiations. Do you see this in future signings being exclusive to Ring of Honor, or could there be a lot of crossover between Ring of Honor and AEW? There is going to be a lot of crossover. Essentially, people who are on Ring of Honor the next week could be on AEW and vice versa. Everything is free and open and available. Justin says, what's up with Goldberg? Is his contract done or not? His contract is done. His contract has ended. He was offered a new contract at a lower rate. He turned it down. He may choose to sign it later on, but at the moment, Goldberg is not signed with any wrestling company. That's pretty succinct. I don't need to say any more on that. So our final 4 matches planned for WrestleMania. The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. Now, do I see Logan Paul winning this match? Because ultimately the Miz is just someone to help Logan Paul get over. Do I see him winning? No. I honestly think Logan Paul will be involved, but not heavily, because his training for wrestling has not gone Bad Bunny well, but has gone better than Goldberg's training, for example. So there's some good spots, but nobody's really raving about this guy at this point. Meanwhile, people continue to rave about Dominic Mysterio. So I do believe this will be a win for Rey and Dominic. And this is sort of the dream for Dominic. He wanted a WrestleMania tag team match alongside his father before any sort of individual push started. That moment is now nigh. I think the Mysterios will win by essentially beating the crap out of The Miz. We have the Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch defending the championship against Bianca Belair. And I do feel this is a little bit cut and dry. Bianca Belair will be dethroning Becky Lynch. Becky over the next few weeks is going to be picking up some good moments, some soft wins as it were, just to make her look strong. But the whole point is to make sure that Bianca Belair goes over twice in a row. They want Bianca Belair to be the female Roman Reigns, and this is certainly a good start in doing so. The other potential Night 1 main event is the SmackDown Women's Championship match between the champion Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Once again, I see a new champion here. Ronda Rousey has been promised a lot of things in order to convince her to come in at the Royal Rumble. One of those things promised was an immediate Royal Rumble win, an immediate championship win, and these things will both be happening. Ronda Rousey will be tapping out Charlotte Flair. Whether or not pinning will be an option, I can't say. But Charlotte Flair will be tapping out regardless. Finally, the main event of WrestleMania will of course be the main event of Night 2. Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, will be taking on Brock Lesnar, the WWE Champion. The winner will take both championships. Now, for a little while, the betting favourite was Brock Lesnar. I remember many people coming in here and saying, but Tom, the betting favourite is Brock Lesnar. And I said, give it time. The betting favourite is now Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns will be retaining his Universal Championship, adding the WWE Championship to it, and then hopefully abandoning it so that we get ourselves a tournament for the WWE Championship starting the new season in WWE Raw. A tournament that I believe will be finalised between Seth Rollins and AJ Styles. Roman Reigns will be picking up the win, taking both championships, throwing Paul Heyman over his shoulder, and walking out triumphant. I'm going to make an actual official video of that shortly, just so everyone can get my predictions and the like. I'll basically record something new with those predictions available and just upload it probably Wednesday next week. Those videos tend to do pretty well, and I do need something to tide over that sort of mid-section, so a video is always a good shout. So while you guys may not need to see that one, because you've already got my predictions, it will be slightly different, so I do implore you to check it out once we get to it. Jermaine says, I agree that Toxic Attraction will be called up to the main roster. I just don't want them to be fed to Rousey on SmackDown this early. I'd rather they wait till Ronda moves to Raw in the draft. Toxic Attraction could be kept separate from Ronda Rousey for quite a long time, particularly if they're working in and around the tag division. They can be kept separate for a long time. And Jermaine says, I say that about Toxic Attraction because if they go to SmackDown, they'll be just like the Riot Squad being fed to Ronda. We don't need to see that again. The Riot Squad, to be clear, were brought up as jobbers. So that is how I feel it's different now. KJ, you're right, mate. Says, I feel Paul takes the pin. Sure. Logan Paul's going to take the pin. Sure. Wheelie says, hey, yo. You're right, mate. How you doing? Sean says, Ray and Dominic were on NXT this week. Dominic beat Raul Mendoza and Ray had an interaction with Santos. Do you see Ray versus Santos at some point? Yes, and why the hell not? Hector says, I saw a report, I don't recall the source. Apparently there's a chance Bret Hart signs of AEW to be FTW's manager. Do you want us to see Bret go into AEW or no? Yeah, Bret Hart's been in AEW before, and when we are getting closer to the Owen Hart tournament, I'd imagine we'll see him again. There's been a lot of speculation about Bret Hart coming in as a manager, no official reports that I'm aware of. Wolfgamer says, let's just hope Roman doesn't toss the WWE Championship into the third row like Lesnar did last week. That was a highlight of SmackDown last week, it really was. He just yeeted it, and it was great. Matthew Hammer said, updates on other matches not announced for WrestleMania. I spoke about 2 matches not announced for WrestleMania there, and that's the updates that we have. Moxie says, Tom, do you think Shane will get a push because Ronda will ask for it? Yes, I have said that for a while, and I do feel confident that is going to happen. Spider-Boss says, who's winning, Becky or Bianca? I did say in my prediction Bianca will be winning. Moxie says Veer is coming. Well, he's taken a damn time doing so. That guy's got proper performance issues. John says, I hope they do Ripley versus Belair or Asuka versus Belair after Mania. Bianca Belair will need new opponents. Rhea Ripley versus Belair is a match that keeps on giving, and I do think it's going to happen at some point. Maybe on a bit of a throwaway Raw though, rather than anything pay-per-view, because Ripley and Liv Morgan are going to be a tag team going forwards. And that, guys, is our show. We will be back live in just over an hour for WWE SmackDown. It starts at 12 p.m. midnight here in the UK now because of daylight savings time. So I'll be back in just over an hour to have a full SmackDown watch party. What I will do while I've got you, that's the wrong one, while I've got you, is I will grab the link for the live show, which I've already prepared, so that you guys can jump in and set your reminders. Here is a link on Twitch. And here is a link on YouTube. So you guys can jump in and set your reminders so you don't miss a moment. In the meantime though, all I'm going to say is thank you everyone for your continued support, for the new channel memberships, the super chats, the donations of bits. You guys are all doing me a huge amount of support and help, and I would not be able to do this without you. So I'll see you all soon. I've been Tom Colohue, you've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.